Right, I thought I'd do a short video on carbs. Uh, I reckon well, I know I've got a Mustang, but most normal cars, engines, because mine's a bit of a Frankenstein, would have a single carb, I'd have thought. I think, sort of 350s up to 750, 800s. That's the CFM. What we've got here is a 600 Holley, full 150. I've got two of them because I'm blown. So got one there I've got to clean, and I've got one that I've just cleaned. So I thought I'd run through it with you. It's quite simple, really. You've got the primaries. Okay, primaries are always at the front. So if you look at the front of the car, the front of the carb is a primary. So that one is a primary. And can you see there is a metering block here? That's where your jets are. So if you undo these four screws, the bottom ones, you take the front bowl off. This one just pulls off, and then you've got the metering block. In the metering block are two jets, and that's how you jet your carbs. This is where the fuel's delivered in the top, these two. That's where the fuel's delivered. And your accelerator pump, which is here. That's it there, it's on a spring, so when you do the accelerator, you see it, there's a little lever there. It ramps up a cam, pushes this down. You can't really see it because there you go. Can you hear that? So that pushes down, and there's a little like vacuum here, if you like a diaphragm, and it comes up and it goes to here. So this is the two squirts. You've got one there and one there. So them two. You can change these. You can get bigger ones, and I'll show you in the trick kit that I've got. This is the trick kit that you can buy. Buy them from Real Steel, and it's the base for the carb. And that's the metering block gasket. Different base for carbs. Some of you have got just one carb, will probably have one of those. Where I'm supercharged, I've just got a big hole. So we want lots of fuel. There it is. So that is, it's a little diaphragm. See it? Just goes up and down, and it pumps. So that one goes under here. So there's a little screw there. So yeah, that's that one, really. So that's primary. Now we're going to secondaries. This is a vacuum secondary carb, alright? So, I'll turn it around. There's the vacuum. The reason why it's vacuum is because it's street, and I like the vacuum of the car engine to pull open the secondaries. You do get double pumpers. Double pumpers are very similar with this linkage. They just have a linkage at the back for double pumper. So basically when you open the throttle, you get to a certain point, the cam opens and the secondaries open. That's more, I would say, race cars. Because I'm on the street as well, I didn't really want to have vacuum secondaries. Double pumpers. Vacuum secondaries are better for fuel economy. So that's secondary. So in there is a diaphragm, and that opens and closes. If I can get to it. This plunger. So see that? That goes up and down, opens and closes secondaries. So secondaries, primaries. Okay? Driving along, you're using the primaries. Stomp on the gas, you use the secondaries. Secondary float bowl, right? You will notice that I've got a metering block in the secondary and the primary. Okay? The reason why I've got it is because I want to jet both primary and both secondaries. A lot of people haven't got secondary metering blocks. A lot of people have just got a flat plate, and it's basically just open. So it just dumps fuel at a given size metering block. You can drill it out, but I like to be able to adjust just by literally undoing these four bolts, changing the jets, and put it back in. So that's that. A couple of things to adjust. when you're looking at running your carb on your car. So just say this is all you've got, because most of you probably have this. Forget that it's a 750 cm or a 650. This is 600s. They could be smaller. Holleys are generally the same. I'm not going to go into Carter or Weber or anything like that. This is a Holley, or even Demons. They're mostly based on Holleys anyway. But so we have curb adjustment, they call it, or idle adjustment. Literally, you just turn this one. Let me get a screwdriver. Turn this one, and it will adjust your revs up and down, up and down. Yeah, so that's easy. The amount of squirt you're getting on your pump when you pull this back. Can you see that going down? You can adjust on the spring how much it ramps up. So whether you have a bigger shot or a smaller shot. Right, idle mixture screws. So this is letting in, it's a tap, okay? So basically, screw it in, it's not letting in much, screw it out, it's letting in loads. Rule of thumb, 1 turn to 1.5 turns out to start. Okay, that's generally what you want to do. And you have to work between the idle mixture screw, the rev screw, tick over screw, and the idle mixture screw. There's one there, and I've actually got one on the other side, just here. There's another one. There's 2. Okay, and all you do is you get a vacuum gauge. You put the vacuum gauge to your manifold, get it in park, so it's ticking over normally, and adjust the idle, the rev screw, if you like, the tick over screw. There's loads of different terms for it. I'll just use common, easy to understand language. So basically, if you turn this in, see the lever moving? Yeah, going to make it go higher in the revs. Turn it out, going to go low in the revs. And what you're after is a nice smooth tick over with a good vacuum reading. So you want to be taking this out so that the car is just about to stall, and then just let it turn out just a bit so it's revving high, and then adjust the idle mixture screw this side and the other side, and you're looking for good vacuum reading. So once you've got that, you know roughly you're good, but generally they're about 1.5 turns out roughly, and then you're there. You haven't got any of the secondaries because obviously this is just on and off, you know. You get the vacuum reading, opens up this, fuel goes in because you're gunning it. So there's 3 parts to the carb. You've got the idle circuit. It's got nothing to do with this. These 2 at the top, nothing to do with it. So when you start the car, you normally just maybe pump the gas twice, 3 times to prime it. First of all, it will squirt out of here. All right, this is a shooter. You'll pump it, pump here, pump out of there, okay? You'll turn it over, give it a bit of gas, and you'll probably get a tiny bit of fuel coming out here. You'll warm the car up, and then it'll idle. Hopefully, once you've done the idle correctly, this will be set correctly. You'll have done your idle circuit screws correctly. So what you've got, if you get an off idle stumble, right, where you're literally just about to drive off and it's a bit jerky, you know, what you need to look at is something called your transition slots. So on the back of your carb, you've got something called transition slot. Now I'm going to have to point to it because they're very, very small. Can you just see that little slot? So if you keep your eye on that, I'm just going to open up this carb. Oh, it's difficult to show you. There's a little slot. I can see it, but the camera probably can't focus that well, to be honest. It's called a transition slot. All right, it's a little. Actually, you can see it there. So see that groove just in line with what I'm doing now. I'm not scratching that. That's just moisture, carb clean. There is a transition slot, right? So follow that all the way up. Probably can't see it. That transition slot is what opens the idle circuit to the primaries. So the idle circuit's ticking along, and then when you open that, that allows more vacuum through, which then takes you off of the idle circuit onto the primaries, which is what this is. And you'll drive along the road, you open and closing, la la la, having some fun, spinning the wheels and generally being a complete nuisance, which is what I should really be doing. So that is what you need to be doing. Now, to adjust the idle circuit is on here. That's what you're doing, yeah? That's what you're adjusting. By adjusting, opening your transition slots. So if you open this with that, see that screw? Yeah, look, when you pull that screw out, you're opening the transition slot, yeah? So on the primaries, it's very easy to do. Now, remember this, the problem is the secondaries. All right, the secondaries, they can't be done with the carb on the car, which is a pain in the arse, to be honest. But there you go. So the secondaries is here. Can you see this? This is the back of the thread, okay? And up here, in here, see this just here? I'll show you the grub screw. I don't need to show it really because that's the end of the grub screw. This hits the top of that screw, and again the transition slots, I'll probably sleeve these a lot better actually. Yeah, you can, look, see that transition slot? You're looking for about, that's closed, you're looking for about that, just for a tiny bit of transition slot on a secondary. So if you're again going from primary and you put your foot down and you get a bit of a bog, a bit of an off primary stumble, some people call it, well, some people say an off idle stumble, which we've discussed. The off primary stumble, when you put your foot down and it bogs, that is because this, that transition slot, see there? That's because that is probably closed all the way. And what's happened is it's taken time for that to open. While it's taken time for that to open, get rid of that. While it's taken time for that to open, you have starved the car of a bit of fuel, and that's why it's bogging. And all of a sudden it'll pick up and, you know, load. That's a noise it makes, by the way, and it will just go. So what you need to do is adjust so that that is about there. They do it in thous, but to be honest, I just literally do it so you can just see a shadow. See that? That's too less. That's about right. That's too much. Too much. Too much. Too much. Oh, about there. Something like that. Just one little shadow. And I think there's one. There it is. There's one there. See? That's the transition slot. And there's basically a groove and there's a little hole. And that hole goes up to the metering blocks. And it allows air to be pulled for you, and it changes the way that the fuel is delivered. So that's pretty much it. There's the pump, the one I was trying to show you earlier. See it? Pumping. So when you stomp on the gas, this opens. Can you see it moving? Is that better? There you go, that's better. Look, see? So that's basically the first shot. So you get in the car, a couple of stomps on the gas, that plunges through to the top one I showed you. Start the car on your idle circuit. When you go to step on the gas a bit, I can't show the transition slots because they're up here at the top bit. They're at the top, these are the bottom. So the transition slot opens and then the primaries come in, and then when you really floor it, you're flooring it, you then get the vacuum signal. When you get the vacuum signal, this gets pulled down because it's pulling up. You see that's moving up? So the vacuum is pulling this up, and then these open, yeah, into the secondaries. So these are open, loads of speed, loads of points, loads of fines, loads of money. Everyone's looking at you going, wow, he looks stupid. And then these open up, and that's why you sometimes get an off primary stumble. When you put your foot down, all of a sudden it feels like a turbo's kicked in. It's not, it's just you've got fuel. and you will be able to see that from reading your spark plugs as well, because you'll have sooty spark plugs, and then when you let it idle, your spark plugs will probably burn it all off. So you've got to do it when it's doing it. So when it's bogging, turn the ignition off, cruise to a stop, pull the plug, and you'll see what's happening. Chances are you will burn off it because it's gone lean. When the car's really smoking and bogging, it's probably because the fuel is too much. We've just got too much fuel, which could mean that these are open too much, and you've adjusted this screw too much. So they are 600s, full 150s, and you've got see this tube? That tube there, I put the positive crank pressure, so that would be from your headers, and literally just put a tube up onto that. And here is my tube. There you go. So there's my tube. That is, you see it? So that's a one-way valve, bit dirty, I've got to clean it all up. It's one-way valve. That basically goes into there, and that goes straight into the top of the headers. So when your crankcase is providing pressure, pressure from the pistons going up and down, this will go back in to the carb and back through and back into the engine and get recirculated. Probably similar to a bit of an EGR valve really on the newer cars. However, this isn't actually that good. So I'm going to do another video once I've got the engine all sorted. I'm actually going to put bosses into the exhaust, and then get rid of this, blank this up, and actually put this. This will go from top of my headers down the back of the gearbox and into the exhaust, because that is obviously pulling pressure which has probably got a mist of oil in it. So I don't really want oil going through something I've metered correctly into a mix. So there you go. So a bit of a long video, but that's how I thought I'd show you what they are. I suppose adjusting, you've got adjusting screws, so you're best off taking off this, take this out, because this is side of the float bowl. This is how you look at the level. You want the fuel level to be just trickling out of here. So undo this, you want it just trickling out of there. If it's not trickling out of there, just crack this off, open this up, get a spanner, and just wind that a tiny bit out until you see fuel trickling out of here, and then do the grub screw back up. And that's the same for that one. You can get glass float bowls, sight glass as they call them. I don't like them. Mine, all the ones I've had have gone hard in the holes and cracked. So I literally just do it like this. I just found a nut, there's an O-ring on the back of it, and I don't actually know if I can undo it by hand. No, I've done them up quite tight. So yeah, that's pretty much how I do it. The way you should pull vacuum from the engine is from here. So that's in the primary metering block. That is where you pull vacuum. So that goes to your intake, and your intake will give you the vacuum reading. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I've just used carb clean. I've gone through the carb, looked at the primaries, looked at the secondaries, gone through the carb. Everything seems fine. So I've put it back together, changed the gaskets. I put carb clean. Any carb clean really, that's good. And you can see literally what I've cleaned out. See all that? All the carbon. Just giving it a good clear out. On the metering blocks, just spray all the holes, make sure everything works. You can spray down these ones. These are air bleeds. You can spray down these. Just make sure everything's running right. And that's basically the carb. There's a really good book that I'd recommend, and it's Tuning Holley Carbs. It's an American book, and literally they just go into everything about off-idle stumbles, on primary stumbles coming into secondaries, and how to adjust, and also to change the accelerator, foot pump, the accelerator diaphragm. You can change these for higher ones, and also the power valve. There's the power valve. So that one you can see is 6.5. I can't run those. I run a 9.5 because I'm supercharged. Obviously the vacuum reading's different, so that's probably a standard one. And that, if you can see it, this isn't the primary. This basically gets pulled open with vacuum, and it allows tons of fuel to go in when a vacuum reading is really, really low. So yeah, that is a booster. There you go. Right, I'll fit these. I've got to clean out this one, and then we're going to put them on top of the blower.